What people can start believing is consistent patterns. And when
Right.
your spouse, significant other, partner starts showing up with consistent patterns of trustworthy behavior, that's when you can start trusting them. But it has to first start with yourself. You have to trust yourself to the, you know what? I'm almost 100% knowledgeable, secure, faithful that my spouse will never, ever cheat on me again. I'm almost assured of that. However, if for whatever reason they do, I'm going to trust my decisions that I'm going to be okay with.
Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Wow, welcome back to Coach Soul. I mean, who would have thought? Infidelity? We go into blaming ourselves because our partner cheated. We didn't do enough, can't do enough, be enough. And we get into the lie of self-deception. Jay, welcome back to part two. You just left us a good cliffhanger.
Well, thank you. I promise not to do it again.
We'll just keep you coming back on the show. If not,
Sounds
when
great.
you think about what we deal with, that is the shame. Let's begin this segment with shame when it becomes infidelity, not only on the victim, but the one who perpetrated. I hate using those terms. Those sound a little harsh. Define that in your terms, if you would, please.
Perpetrator or shame?
All of it.
So basically, in short, guilt is we did something bad. Shame is we are someone bad. And I will say this, and I don't know if you want me to get into the moleculars of, cheating as a choice, because I will say this, there's actually a noun for the definition of cheating, and then there's a verb for cheating.
Okay.
One is it was a wrong moral decision. And because a lot of times couples will come to me and say, I need her to stop telling me it was a choice choice. And one of my things is whatever you want to paint it, nobody falls into infidelity on accident. So now, if you want to say it was a choice, because some people are really hung up on that, and for whatever reason, I respect them. If you want to say it was a choice, fine, great, and dandy, but it was a choice while your mind was hijacked. Because nobody healthy, healed, and happy just gets into an affair. So so you were under some, whether you want to say duress or if it was, again, lack of coping mechanisms from childhood. Affairs in a lot of ways, I equate them in a way, some aspect of it, to ADHD. People with ADHD have motorcycle motor with bicycle brakes. And sometimes people that get into affairs, they lack so many skills that open up an environment that will allow them to get into an affair, but the coping mechanisms are like bicycle brakes. But one of the things that, now I'm going to tell you something. You know what's different? One of the many, many things that's difficult while healing on the infidelity journey is for the person that stepped out is to be present for the person that's healing from the broken trust.
Right.
But how in the world can you be present and strong when you're riddled with shame? That's a very difficult journey. And so it's very roller coaster and it's a tightrope to walk, but you really have to walk that fine line of working on your shame, empowering yourself, building yourself up, but at the same time, allowing yourself to be very vulnerable in the presence of your spouse if you're trying to repair and rebuild. And that's a very fine line at times. Not to mention, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you think about the shame that comes with it, then there's the made to be feeling guilty, so to speak. We always hear the term once a cheater, always a cheater. What are your thoughts about that phrase?
I think it's nonsense. Listen, it's the same thing as once an addict, always an addict. No, I think once an addict, always vulnerable. I think once a
Okay.
cheater, I wouldn't even put that in the. See, let me tell you something. Listen, anytime something breaks down, it's because there was vulnerabilities. Those could be coping mechanisms. Those could be self-worth. Those could be the vulnerabilities, intimacy issues. Once you heal that vulnerability, then the chances of something reoccurring are pretty nil. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, do relapses happen in affairs? Yeah, they do, just like they happen in addictions. But if you heal the underlying root of what helped give an environment to precipitate an affair, or acting out, because obviously cheating just isn't affairs. There's massage parlors and hookups and apps and all these other things. Once you heal what was vulnerable and you replace unhealthy coping mechanisms with healthy coping mechanisms, there's pretty much a guarantee that somebody won't repeat cheating again, which is actually how you can start trusting again. I mean, that's one of the many ways you can trust again. Another way is, well, we can get into that if you want. How do you build trust within the parameters of rebuilding and repairing on the journey of after broken trust? But absolutely, there's many things even in our country that at one time were broken because they were vulnerable. We fixed that vulnerability, and now there's pretty much almost a guarantee outside of some miracle bombing occurring where the chances are slim to none at all. But however, you do have to trust yourself. This is why I say trust starts with yourself, because you have to trust yourself enough to know based on what my spouse, partner, significant other is doing, has done, consistent, because I tell people all the time, listen, after broken trust, you cannot believe words. Absolutely. Your nervous system will not let you believe people's words. And I'm going to be honest with you, after broken trust, your nervous system will not let you believe behavior. It will not. What people can start believing is consistent patterns. And when your spouse, significant other, partner starts showing up with consistent patterns of trustworthy behavior, that's when you can start trusting them. But it has to first start with yourself. You have to trust yourself you know what? I'm almost 100% knowledgeable, secure, faithful that my spouse will never, ever cheat on me again. I'm almost assured of that. However, if for whatever reason they do, I'm going to trust my decisions that I'm going to be okay with, whatever decisions I have. So you got to start with trusting yourself.
I want to go a little bit further in that, because it's easy for you and I as a relationship kind of experts, if you would, in this field of helping people to keep their relationships together. It's easy for us to say, well, you got to learn how to trust yourself. And the question that I think would come to mind often would be, how do I trust myself? I thought I did when I got into this relationship. And then all of a sudden, what I thought I knew I trusted is now broken. How do we differentiate the two so that people can start learning ways that they can trust themselves again?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say that if I heard somebody say what you just said, I would ask them, what is your litmus test for I thought I was trustworthy going into this? Because people just like to spew out words just to hear themselves talk. What work did you do? What is your litmus test for you trusted yourself enough to trust your decisions? Because 9 times out of 10, that would fall flat. That's number one. Number two, to answer your question, once we start working on trusting ourselves, what does that mean? Is, first of all, one of the techniques I have people do is I say, get out a pen and paper and actually strip yourself of everything external. No titles, no degrees, no nothing. Just core you. Why are you a good person? And, we're very visual people. Once you have that written down, refer to it often. Attach it to your bathroom mirror, put it on your steering wheel in your car, whatever. We need to remind ourselves, why are we we're not a good person because we have a master's degree. We're not a good person because maybe we're a father or an uncle or a CEO. That don't mean jack crap when it comes to humanity and character and all this other crap. Strip yourself of all external titles and roles and everything. Why are you a good person fundamentally? Number two, what is predictable? Because a lot of times, especially after broken trust, nothing is predictable to you at all. As a matter of fact, after broken trust, you not only distrust your partner, you distrust yourself. And then that has a ripple effect. You start questioning everybody in your world. Well, wait a minute. Is my mother trying to betray me? Is my boss scheming something? Your whole world is blown up. You can't even go to the grocery store without thinking, is somebody on the other side of the aisle going to jump me? I mean, you are hyper vigilant. You don't trust anyone. So you got to write down, what can I trust? Well, you know something? I can trust that the sun's going to come out tomorrow. So write down what you can trust. Go with the basics. Go with there. And then after that, one of the things that I have couples do is I want you to verbally vocalize saying you're going to do something and then following through with it. So for example, and this is with the big things and the small things. So for instance, I want you to tell yourself, today at 3:00, I'm going to go to the store because I need bread and milk. And then you go to the store at 3:00. Now you might be saying, well, Mr. J, obviously everybody goes to the store. Sure. But you can go to the store at 2 or you can go at 7. What you're doing is you're getting your body used to trusting your words somatically, mind, body, and soul, all in tune, talking with each other. You are trusting yourself. Okay, I'm going to take a bath tonight at 8:00. And then you take a bath at 8:00. I'm going to sell my car and lease it within 6 months and lease a new one. Then you do that. And so what you start building trust with yourself to the point where you get out of bed in the morning and you say, man, I am a man of my word, or I am a woman of character. I can count on me. And once you start having that fundamental trust within yourself, it's just like a ripple effect, which is why I say the same thing with forgiveness. You got to define forgiveness. And the first thing you need to do after you define it is you got to apply it to yourself. Once you start forgiving yourself of everything you need to forgive, then it's actually easier to create an environment where you start forgiving others.
You know, it's an interesting perspective because when you think about, we're wired to be trusted. And at the same time, even at our core, as a child or every parent, we try to seek connection. And in that, it's not deception. It's based in trust. And when you think about what you shared, it's not the pathology that defines us, but the betrayal of that trust that breaks us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the forgiveness part, who wants to let go of control? It's easier for me to control the situation than to forgive, because forgive means I forget, or forgive means I let them off scot-free, and I have to still deal with that pain. Try to help our listeners a little bit more that have that difficulty in letting go. I hate that term because of the Frozen movie, I guess. Let it go. You know, but it's that aspect of what ways, you know, is there freedom in forgiveness? And it doesn't mean that we're letting go of control per se.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I interchange the word forgive with self-love. Mm-hmm. Because forgiveness really doesn't have anything to do with somebody else. What you're doing is you are giving up the emotional garbage that's attached to that situation. You know, we've all heard 1,000 times unforgiveness is like drinking poison, wishing somebody else died, and all this other nonsense. But you know, if you take two leaders of a country, let's just say are at war, and they decide, okay, let's all meet at the peace treaty table. Okay. And one leader comes to the table with a suit and tie on, and the other one comes with battle gear with their sword raised. Is there ever going to be peace? No. So really giving up your battle gear is what's going to give you peace. And you need to give up your battle gear. And what does that mean? Doesn't mean that you are giving anybody a get out of jail free card. It doesn't mean you're saying what you did is okay. Absolutely. It means I'm going to exercise my self-love and not give an emotional burden to every time I think of this situation, because it's basically you are chained to me. And every time I think about this, you yank on the chain, I'm going to cut that chain. Doesn't matter how much you yank on it, I'm going to be free of that. So it's absolutely a free. So I do interchange forgiveness with self-love.
That's important. Oftentimes, couples and individuals that I've dealt with, they get confused by self-love and forgiveness. And I believe it's important for us to learn how to self-love, especially when it becomes into infidelity. Well, they didn't love me, so they went out and cheated. So why should I love myself?
Mhm.
What do you help people that are in that mindset? How do you help them to not go into that despair of thought about themselves?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the more we know, the more we grow. And sometimes just giving them some facts and some stats. I'm just going to tell you, I work with some beautiful models. Man, I work with some beautiful models. I work with bankers, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, all of which been cheated on.
Mhm.
They had it all. They had money. They had degrees. They had beautiful bodies. They were cheated on. So it's not a matter of somebody didn't have enough. That's number one. Number two, I always say people don't get into affairs because they're looking for someone else. They get into affairs because they're looking to become someone else.
Mhm.
And it's very important that you understand it's not what you lacked at all. It's what was lacking within them. You just, however, they unfortunately jumped the plank, but you're in a relationship with them. So you were tied to them. So you're in sinking water with them too. So basically, I just try to throw them some facts and stats. Is that it's has nothing to do with the other person, what you didn't have, whatever. Now, again, were there some responsibilities that contributed to this environment that maybe made it a little easier? Like I'm going to give you an example. I talked to a lot of couples where somebody steps out, and then we do some work, and this is very common. What happens is the other person said, I had a lot of needs. I had a lot of needs, but I just didn't put them out because I didn't want to rock the boat.
Mm.
And this is for the person who stayed faithful. I hate using these terms too, but whatever, for context. And I'll say, well, listen. So basically, do you think that by you not honoring your voice and not exercising boundaries, not enforcing boundaries, it created a space where this maybe was, one element, because there's many, many, many. And so this is what I mean. Like, of course, you have no responsibility in the choices that were made, but how did we show up in the relationship? That's what we need to improve. So yeah, so that's to answer your question, hopefully I did, is again, let me just beat it into whoever's listening. You have zero responsibility. You have every responsibility in how you showed up in the relationship, zero responsibility in your partner acting up. Because listen, they had options. They had many
Right.
options. They could have sought help. They could have applied for divorce. They could have done many options. They chose one that was tremendously hurtful and that dragged you down. But I will say, just for people that are listening, I tell people this all the time, and I work with people that repair and rebuild after broken trust. It's not only possible, it's probable if you're willing to do the work. I tell people all the time, maybe you'll never have your happily ever after, but with work, you can certainly have your happily even after.
When you think about what we've been talking about and sharing, let's take the next 5 to 6 minutes that we have. What are some tools that you use that might be helpful to our audience that are dealing with infidelity, that have not gone through counseling, contemplating divorce? Where's a place that a person can feel safe to begin their healing journey, and to maybe both partners can start this journey of healing?
Yeah, great question. Um, Number one, let's just say this, because obviously your question's great. Depending on where a couple is on their journey, let's just say, let me start with the couple that just discovered infidelity in their relationship. Number one, obviously, you need to do a full STI, STD checkup, both partners. That's first and foremost. Number two, you have to make sure you are safe. And what I mean safe is not only physically safe in the marriage, but also emotionally safe in the marriage. Because when we get into affairs, our brain is often hijacked and we do get into a trance. And I want to make sure you're not gaslit, you're not manipulated, you're not blamed. So you got to make sure you're safe. Now, regardless if you're repairing or rebuilding, what you have to do, and again, I'm talking about the first 3 to 4 acute months right after D-Day, day of discovery, you want to come up with a needs assessment list. What is a needs assessment list? It's what do I need when my brain is hijacked? And this is going to look different for everybody. So, for instance, let's just say take a male female couple relationship. The male stepped out, the female discovered it. She says, I need space. You need to go stay with your mother, stay in a hotel, whatever it is. I need space, get out of the house. Well, now she's got 3 kids at home. And so her needs assessment might look like this. Who are 3 people that I can call in the middle of the night that won't ask me any questions? They'll just let me vent. Let me write that down. What are 3 restaurants where I can just go on an app and press a few buttons and food will be delivered to my house in a half an hour? Because I need to be in the bed all day in a fetal position crying because I can't even move, but my kids still have to eat. Who are 3 people that I could pick up the phone and they know I need prayer? They're just going to pray with me. They want to ask questions. So you need to write down a needs assessment. And you have to do this when you're in sound mind, because when you get a trigger, and triggers are debilitating, when you get a trigger, your mind is hijacked and you're not thinking. Your amygdala kicks in, your animalistic part brain starts kicking in, and then you start making decisions that are not rational, logical, and usually not healthy. So you got to go back to this needs assessment list. So that's that. Now, if you are repairing and rebuilding after infidelity, one of the things that I really encourage parties to do, absolutely, it's important that you get your individual work done with a professional. But I'm telling you something, I don't know why, and you can disagree with me, or maybe many people can. It's very vital that both people get into something together. This needs to be healed together. Even when you're talking to one party or the other about the infidelity, I think it's helpful that the other party hear what's going on. The party that stepped out needs to hear how damaged and broke they contributed to the relationship breakdown. And let's just say, we're doing a little deep dive into the components of what led to the affair or the infidelity. The other person needs to hear this, because again, right after D-Day, they were given a 10,000 piece puzzle with 4,000 missing pieces, and now they have to try to put that puzzle together. They're looking for answers all over. Now, once we get into the healing journey a little bit more, and listen, there's a ton everywhere, but just to kind of, for our time wise, once we get into the healing journey more, I think it's very important to have what's called check-in dates. What are check-in dates? Check-in dates are these. Times that you both come up with where you have rules of engagement and you talk specifically about the infidelity. Now, that could be 1 hour, 1 day a week. It could be 3 hours twice a week. I mean, you come up with whatever time everybody, you decide on these. And then basically what happens is when both parties can come, and I'll tell you something, especially when it comes to men, we need this because we're very linear thinking. And, just hypothetically speaking, say a male-female relationship, the minute a guy hears, let's talk about the infidelity, what runs through his mind is, okay, how long are we going to be talking about this? How much crap is she going to make me feel like I'm a piece of crap? And how long am I going to go without being talked to or go without sex? And so if we know that we have 30 minutes where we got to show up, we have the capacity for that 30 minutes, and we'll show up a good amount. But if we don't have rules of engagement, then what happens? We start to minimize, defend, all that, and that only just really pisses our partner off. So have times where you actually do check-ins, because I always say, listen, after infidelity, we have 3 gardens we got to tend to. We got our personal garden, which is our own selves. We all got to tend to that garden. We got to feed ourselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. Once we get married, now we have a marital garden we got to tend to. Once we have broken trust, now we have a repair and rebuild garden. So you have to absolutely specifically tend to that garden. And when you're making these dates to talk specifically about infidelity, the other person can't bring in the marriage garden. They got to stick on the infidelity garden. And then as you're going down the line, then you can start reintroducing sex if that's something that the couple wants to do. And then you want to start introducing date times, and you want to really start working with the intimacy of the couple, because especially if I'm working with an addict, like a sex addict who acted out. The opposite of addiction is connection. And you want to really start working on intimacy with a couple to work on. Let's get that intimate connection going on, which I'll tell you something. Once an addict lets down their guard and they start connecting and they're really intimate with their partner, and I'm not just talking about sexually, I'm talking about, man, I know that I can come to my partner real raw and nude and feel safe. That addiction just kind of like fades away, not completely, entirely, and immediately. Right. But so that's some of the, I know I said a lot and I'm on a tangent and I know I jumped a lot, but there's a lot involved. It completely depends on where they are in the journey and who the two people are that are showing up and how broken are they or how healed are they.
Jay, you brought us some valuable points for healing. And as we close, we come to an end. Is there a workbook or something that can help couples or individuals to try to go through? I think you mentioned a journal that you have published. You want to briefly talk about that real quick?
Very quickly. I did write and publish a trauma healing journal. It's called From Tears to Transformation. You can get it on my website, which is mrjrelationshipcoach.com, or you can get it right on Amazon. And what it does is it really helps just simply jumpstart the process of dealing with your triggers, your emotional flashbacks, your self-worth, your self-love. It helps you in that first immediate window, 3 to 4 when you're in acute trauma. Absolutely. So, but even if somebody doesn't want my journal, doesn't want to talk to me, I have a lot of free resources on my website, from podcasts and interviews such as yours to many other free resources. So again, it's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. If somebody doesn't want to do anything, see me, talk to me, get a journal, just come and enjoy the free resources that are on my website.
Hey, it takes a community to help a community. And I really appreciate your time and your information, because oftentimes I just say to my clients, therapists are like shoes. You got to find the right fit. And oftentimes it's try to find that one fit. You may have said something today that has sparked something that somebody's been dealing with in their situation, and through years of counseling that you might have sparked something different. So it's not about competition in our world. It's about really helping a world that's hurting. And you provided a lot of information here. And so thank you for joining us on Coach Soul. Until next time, take care and God bless. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.